Democrats are now barreling toward a shutdown over voting rights and changes to the Senate rules. That's after months of growing frustration from within the caucus. The party is under pressure from both outside groups and lawmakers in order to pass some federal election legislation as the GOP-run state legislatures debate new voting rules. Now, after watching Senate Republicans block election and voting rights again, which requires 60 votes for most legislation to advance, Chuck Schumer is now vowing to bring the bill up again. Schumer said the Senate will consider voting rights legislation as early as the first week back, and if Senate Republicans continue to misuse the filibuster, then the Senate will then consider changes to any rules which prevent us from debating and reaching final conclusion. But forcing a vote, everybody could highlight division within the caucus, where Manchin and Sinema support the 60-vote threshold. But according to multiple news sources, hundreds of thousands of Minnesotans are now receiving surprise stimulus checks to the state of Minnesota. The department has processed everybody about 524,000 of the impacted returns now out of a total of 542,000. So with an average refund going out and being paid to everyone in the state of Minnesota around $581 for people that qualify for the Minnesota State stimulus check. Now the IRS is also in the process of issuing refunds to millions of Americans because up to $10,200 of benefits did not count as income under the American Recovery Plan. But taxpayers were not required to pay federal taxes on them. But the bill was signed into law in March, and this caused millions of taxpayers to file tax returns, and also paid the taxes due by that date. Although some states added new tax benefits to the benefits, state tax to the benefits, Minnesota also issued a tax exemption, just as the federal government did, and this has come as a surprise to many taxpayers who were unaware of this tax rule change. Now, for all people in the state of Minnesota who are eligible, they will get the refund automatically, as they do not need to file an amended tax return. However, the Department of Revenue must also have your information on file in order to receive the payment as direct deposit. Otherwise, folks, a paper check will also be issued and mailed to you. Now, the Department of Revenue Commissioner said that we know these refunds are important to those taxpayers who have experienced hardships over the last year and a half. We made the decision to adjust nearly all of these returns on our end, so the impacted taxpayers would not need to take the time and resources to file an amended return, which would further delay the refund that they're due. So due to the crisis everybody that's going on, a large number of IRS taxpayers are still waiting to receive the tax refund for unemployment benefits that were generated from the 2020 tax cycle. Now, all indications are that they will have to wait until 2022. Not since the Great Depression has the unemployment rate been as high as it was in 2020, and this coupled with the American Recovery Plan that was created to help those affected by the crisis, exempted those who lost their jobs from paying up to $10,000 in taxes. Now, the law was signed by President Biden, and by that date, many taxpayers had already filed their tax returns. So, according to the IRS, there are about 16 million taxpayers who are eligible to receive the refund check and item.
Do you have any doubts that this will get passed, and when do you think it'll get passed in the House?
No doubts whatsoever. Tomorrow morning, last night, our distinguished Majority Leader, Mr. Hoyer, gave notice to members when the Senate bill passed that we would be coming to the floor on Friday morning. We have to give 24 hours notice of bringing a bill to the floor. And so that will be Friday morning, and it will be a lively, a wonderful debate. We're very proud of the legislation. We'll have a strong bipartisan vote, and hopefully by noon we'll be finished. That will only depend on how carefully we have to come in small numbers to the floor of the House to vote. But our debate will be finished, and we're very proud of it. We're very proud of the legislation because we believe that many elements of the House Democratic bill were contained in the Senate bill. It helped support the Senate Democrats who really, we did jujitsu on the Republican bill. It was very corporate-oriented. This is worker-focused. And so we're very pleased with that.
And Madam Speaker,
just to change the leverage.
As you know, Madam Speaker, there was a lot of impatience to get this done. When we thought we had it, we didn't have it. But it was held up for some of those issues that you're talking about that makes you prouder than you otherwise would have been. What's the most number one thing or two things that really you think improved because of the delay of a couple of days?
Well, let me just say it wasn't held up and it wasn't a delay. We saw a $2 trillion bill last Saturday. This is the legislative process. We have to see what it is and see how we can weigh in to get it a compromise that works for the American people. So we actually should have been doing this over a much longer period of time where we'd have more transparency and the public could be more aware of the provisions in the bill. So this was a very accelerated pace as it was. But what we needed to do was to change it from corporate trickle down to worker bubble up. And in that way, it said that we do recognize that certain industries. On the subject of the airlines, I have made the case to my colleagues that this is a special case because in order for airline employees to return to the workforce, there are national security concerns, there are concerns about certification and all the rest of that, not just somebody leaving a job and coming back to a job, but having to requalify. It could take a couple years for a pilot, 6 months for a flight attendant. So right. I do think that we should pay special attention to that. But we cannot do that and then lose all leverage to do everything else that we have to do in the bill, which is to crush the virus, honor our heroes, put money in the pockets of the American people. And I do, you know, I have a confidence that when we're having the conversations with the Secretary and we're exchanging paper, it is for a purpose.
Madam Speaker, are you speaking to the Secretary directly? Because there are reports that he raised with you the possibility of a broader stimulus deal, even at this late stage. Are you speaking with him directly? Has he not said that to you?
I had that inference to be drawn from our conversation, yes, and most recently last evening. I don't know what time of day it was, late in the day yesterday. We're always hopeful that well, we're at the table. You know, I've said we're at the table. We're not leaving the table. This has to happen. But again, it can't happen unless we're legislating. That means we're writing words, and we need to have their acceptance of the fact that we must crush the virus. Now, if they have amendments to the words, well, show us what that is. But they have recognized, they have not responded to that very important part of how we go forward. There is a national plan. It is strategic. It is funded, and is what we must do according to what the scientists tell us is necessary to crush the virus.
Madam Speaker.
It also has the funding for vaccines as well, which will be very important. We hope and pray that we have one as soon as possible. Not one day sooner than it is safe and efficacious, not one day later. And hopefully that will be soon, because that is an answer. But for that to happen, people have to have trust that it was done scientifically, not politically.
Madam Speaker, in the past, you said you don't think that President Trump himself has to be in the negotiations because you can work with Secretary of the Treasury Mnuchin.
Right.
At this point, President Trump has changed his position quite a bit with tweeting out, let's call off all the talks, and maybe we should do some of it. Do you still have confidence, not in him as a person,